There's much to talk about. Let's get to our panel right now. With us here in Washington is Afshin Molavi. He's a senior fellow with the Johns Hopkins School of Advanced International Studies. Joe Madison is a political commentator and talk show host with Sirius-XM Satellite Radio. Michael Johns is a former speechwriter for U.S. President George H.W. Bush and the co-founder of the U.S. National Tea Party movement. And joining us from Providence, Rhode Island is Vladimir Golstein. He's a professor of Slavic Studies at Brown University. Thanks to all of you for being with us. Afshin, let me start with you. The latest Trump-Russia story, there seems to be one every day, but this one concerns his son. We are told, as we just heard there, that Donald Trump Jr. was offered incriminating information on Hillary Clinton. It turned out that there was no incriminating information, but this, of course, has not stopped the media and opposition politicians from claiming that this is further proof that Russia colluded, or rather that the Trump campaign colluded with Russia in the U.S. election. What are we to make of this?
You know, Anand, I got to tell you, I don't see a smoking gun here. You know, what I see is a British publicist and I think tabloid journalist who reached out to Donald Trump Jr., waved some juicy information in front of him by email. Donald Trump Jr. Probably used poor judgment in taking this meeting, particularly because of what he said, that this is the Russian government wants to support the Trump campaign, et cetera, et cetera. But if there was actual collusion taking place, wouldn't they have higher level contacts than this British publicist using an intermediary to get a meeting with this Russian lawyer? I think this is...
Are you saying this is a bunch of opportunists that were just floating something out there to see what they could get out of it?
I do. I think this Russian lawyer wanted to talk about the Maginski Act, which is this, you know, piece of legislation that in essence prevents U.S. Families from adopting Russian children. And this was a way to get a meeting. And look, it's also exciting if you're a British tabloid, you know, journalist and a British publicist to be able to say, I set up a meeting with the son of the candidate for the Republican Party, you know. And so I just don't see a smoking gun there. Now, we do know that I think that Russia was involved in tampering with the election, but this doesn't, you know, smell like collusion to me.
Michael, what do you think?
I agree with all of that. I don't believe there's really ever been any indication of substance here. We have Obama officials who, under oath, have acknowledged that there is no evidence of collusion. There's an enticing offer of a meeting here that I think, frankly, not hearing them out would have been probably as ill-advised as, you know, hearing them out was. The meeting itself provided no substantive information. And let's be clear about collusion, because I think this is an area...
But it was a foreign power.
Yeah, and that's where I'm going, is that let's be clear about the issue of collusion, which, you know, has been pointed out by numerous high-level legal officials, is actually not strictly prohibited in U.S. federal electoral laws. It probably should be. Meaning if, you know, a foreign power wishes to intervene, and they had a high-level engagement with Hillary Clinton's campaign, there was some degree of interaction with the Trump campaign, I think to a lesser degree, you know, that right now is legally permissible. If we have a problem with that, and I think generally the country has legitimate concerns about it, we should, you know, enact, you know, FEC or other guidelines that are going to preclude that and make it not permissible. So there would be no judgment call to be made. You don't meet with foreign officials regarding your campaign. Okay. Right now it's permissible, period. No story here. Nothing, again, on the issue of collusion. Nothing, and it's a distraction from the issues that are really confronting the country right now.
Joe?
First of all, we don't know what was said in that meeting. Secondly, Russia has always used intermediaries, not spies at the top. They've used athletes. They've used news people to be the first level to see if in fact an individual or an entity is even interested in talking. So I disagree with the fact that you would have gotten a higher power. Number two, we're talking about an adversary here. Number three, Donald Trump Jr. should have immediately gone to the FBI and the authorities that Russia is in fact trying to interfere with the election. And here is the email that says, I have dirt on my opponent. And they should have immediately contacted the authorities to do it. Right. But finally, let's point out something. We don't know what was said in that meeting, and we're sitting here somehow taking the word of an individual who works for someone like Putin, but doesn't work for Putin, but is in fact part of that whole Russian oligarchy confab of individuals that are spread out all over this country and the world, interfering in as many elections as they possibly
Joe,
can.
from what we do know from these emails, does it rise to the level, in your view, of collusion?
I am not in a position to say that. That's why we have a special prosecutor who will determine that, and we're not, any of us in this room, in a position to say whether it does or does not, but we will soon find out. Well, I don't know how soon it'll be, but we'll find out.
It could be a long time. Let's go to Vladimir in Rhode Island. Vladimir, what do you make of this? I mean, how much credibility can we attach to this Russian lawyer?
I don't think she's credible at all. She's some kind of a sleazy character searching for something, trying to fish in these muddy waters. But what I want to stress is something, you know, it should be clear to your audience. There was recently a correspondent for CNN was asked, what's the story with Russia hacking, Russia this? And he called it very clearly, it was a nothing burger. Nothing burger, there's nothing there. Then he was being asked, why are you doing it? And he said, it's ratings. So we should be remembering that readers of New York Times who keep on peddling these stories, readers of Washington Post very frequently, readers on both coasts, that's what they want to know. They have an open season on Donald Trump. They want something, some smoking gun, and they grab for any possibility of a smoking gun to impeach him. So today will be this story, tomorrow somebody else will come out of the woodwork. What is interesting, the same newspapers, the same CNN, the same New York Times did nothing when Hillary Clinton campaign contacted another British subject named Steele, asked him to find the dirt on Donald Trump. And this guy contacted Russians, some Russian, his former KGB contact. They found some absolutely ridiculous charges about Donald Trump being in some kind of hotel, doing something, you know, which one should mention on daytime news. And, you know, that should be investigated as well. But on the other hand, if anybody will be investigated nonstop, each candidate, you know, there is a country to govern. There is a world to deal with. And I think that also should be addressed. What is going on in Washington? Are we all watching this endless kind of soap opera? Who killed JR? You know, some of your audience remember this Dallas show, which every day people said, who killed JR? So where is the smoking gun? You know, we have China, we have Russia, we have Syria, we have serious situations, and Donald Trump has to come up fighting against these ridiculous charges. This is just, you know, another nothing burger. That's
right.
Well, you see, I got to tell you, first of all, I am absolutely realize that, you know, we've bought into this that somehow our journalist, unless it's a journalist with an entity that we agree with, we're now divided in this country that way. We only pay attention or only believe that which we want to believe. You know, Mark Twain once said something that you can, it's easy to fool people, but it's hard to convince them that they've been fooled. Yeah. And the reality is the fact is that look what Donald Trump Jr. has done in the matter of, what, 48 hours. He's changed the story 3 different times. And that's a fact. And that fact has been reported by everybody. Now, let me tell you, the intent was, in other words, if he was baited with the intent, I've got dirt on your opponent.
And he took the bait.
And he took the bait. Now, that is a fact.
It is a fact, and you know, and it's also a fact that he exercised poor judgment. Clearly, I mean, you know, once you saw that incriminating line in the email about, you know, the Russian government in support of the Trump campaign, that's when, you know, you step away from, you know, meeting this person. So clearly, this
and that's
person,
when you also go to the authorities.
You go to the authorities. It's certainly poor judgment. But I go back to my original point, and I understand the game of, you know, you use cutouts and you use, lawyers. But this didn't smell like this was a British tabloid journalist who had a relationship with the Trumps before. Mm-hmm. It didn't smell like that kind of thing. Now, having said that, you know, to your guests in Providence's point, there's a lot going on in the world that we're missing, you know, because of this. And I think that is a subject that I think we, you know, those of us in the media need to deal with as well.
Michael, final word on this?
I agree. I think the American people are beginning to really tire of it. There's so many crucial issues confronting Washington right now, from the, the addressing of healthcare policy to tax reform to the still unsecured border to major foreign policy issues that need to be addressed, and yet disproportionately, predominantly by enemies of the president who still apparently cannot reconcile intellectually that they lost an election they thought they for sure were going to win, can't get off of this issue. We really reached the moment where it's time to move beyond it. The special counsel exists. I'm not even sure that should exist, but it does exist. They're going to look into this. They've hired dozens now of high-level, high-powered attorneys and researchers. There's going to be a finding of that. I believe it'll be a complete exoneration and a waste of tax dollars. But, if you disagree with that, we're gonna learn it.
But I also very quickly want to recognize Americans are able to chew gum and walk at the same time. And I don't know what shows you listen to, but you listen to
the American people are, but Congress is not. Congress is absorbed.
But what I'm saying, the American people are also addressing not only this. For example, they're addressing the fact that you have now a Federal Election Commission that's asking Big Brother to accumulate all kinds of information that 30, 40 years ago, when I was in college, we would have jumped Nixon for even suggesting something like that. We're able to address many issues at the same time. I do agree that, yes, look, when I look at my show in the morning, the networks are all doing the same thing. I think that's what tires people out.
Okay, I want to move on to another subject right now, Afshin.
And just one quick point on that is that if your colleague mentioned CNN commentator named Van Jones, very far left guy. Yeah. He's been on there every day talking about how serious this Russia issue is. Okay. Now off the record, off camera, it's a nothing burger. Okay. Hold it, you've lost credibility in my view on that. There's no consistency.